Greetings friends, blues fans, back for another installment. Okay, so here's a thought. On my walk over here to my studio, I'm thinking I want to do a little video, and it dawned on me that I haven't talked about the old tritone and playing the third and the seventh of chords as your rhythm part. And in sort of prepping my little background track here that you just heard, it reminded me about one of my favorite records, which is an old Albert Collins record, and I think it's called Truckin'. I think it's on Truckin'. Anyway, but they do this kind of cool rumba vibe, and then, you know, it sounds to me like Albert is sort of doing this kind of two-note comping that I love so much, and maybe that's where I got it from, but I wanted to share it with you today. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm playing on strings 3 and 4, right? 3 being the G string and 4 being the D string. That example was in the key of G. So in order to make like a G7 chord, right, like the 1 chord, I'm playing F and B, okay? This note on the 4th string, F, is the flatted 7th of G7, right? And B is the 3rd, okay? And I often tell my students, really, you only need 2 notes to define the sound of a chord. You have the 3rd, which tells us whether it's major or minor, and then you have the 7th, which is either pretty or funky. Pretty being major 7, right, like jazz guitar, or flatted 7, kind of like blues guitar, funky stuff, right? In this case, we're using the flatted 7. Okay, so I'm letting the bass player do the lower part, what would be like, you know, maybe the left hand of the piano, and then I'm going to play the right hand of the piano and play these 2 notes to comp the blues, okay? So F and B make up the G chord, right? When we go to the 4 chord, which in the key of G is C, in order for us to play the 3rd and the 7th of C, all I have to do is slide this shape down a half step. Now you have E, which is the 3rd of C7, and B flat, which is the 7th, right, of C7, flatted 7th. Okay, so when you hear the change from 1 to 4, 1, that's the 4 chord, right? 5 is only up a half step from 1, right? So our turnaround would be F sharp and C, C, back up to 1. Okay, let me play a couple choruses of this, or chorus, and so you can hear it in context, okay? In key of G, the rumba blues Albert Collins thing, ready? Down a half step, right. Back up. So here's what's cool. We can play the same shape up the neck and do exactly the same thing. So when we're down here playing G7, we have the flatted seventh on the fourth string and the third of the chord on the third string, right? F and B. If I come all the way up to the 10th fret, right, where I have my G7, that tritone is in there. B is just the lower note, right? And F is up on the third string, it's the higher note. So they flipped around, you know, their relationship has changed on the strings, but I'm still playing the third and flat seven, right, of G7. And C7 is down a half step, right? And here's G again, there's C, here's G. The 5 chord, D, is up a half step, right, from the 1 chord, right? So everything's still super close together, right? But now what we've done is we're sort of moving up in pitch, and it sounds kind of cool. So let me play a couple choruses where I'm playing up here. You know, maybe you're a soloist or you're a singer, or you know, in the band, and everybody's kind of like really cooking, and so you want to come up here and sort of heighten the energy, right? So here we are up top. Check this out, like half steps. Anyway, very cool way to play rhythm guitar on that type of groove, and it's fantastic. You got to check out the Albert Collins stuff. I mean, he's unbelievable and super creative and amazing. One thing I want to add before we go, which is this idea of learning to see chords not from the root of the chord based on the 6th or the 5th string is a very powerful skill that has helped me tremendously, especially when it comes to playing lead guitar, right? If I'm always having to figure out where I am, like geographically on the guitar, by trying to find the root of the chord shape, and then, oh, here's my root of G. Well, then, okay, I've got this pentatonic here. I can do it here. Once you're doing all that, the mental gymnastics there, it's like the chord is gone. It's past. You've already missed it, right? So learning to recognize chords just from the 3rd or the 7th. You could learn to recognize minor chords, you know, minor 7 chords, or diminished chords, right, or major 7 chords. It doesn't really matter. In this case, we're using dominant 7 chords because we're playing blues, right? But it's important to sort of understand these 3rd and 7ths of each chord and how they move. We call it voice leading, how they move to the 3rd and 7th of the next chord, right? And that gives us a fantastic tool to play melody over these chords, right? And target those notes, the 3rd and 7th, moving to the next chord, so you can hear the chord change. All right, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to play a couple choruses, improvise a solo, and you'll notice my play along is just a bass line, so there's nobody comping for me, but you're going to hear exactly where I am in the form because I'm targeting the movement of these 2 notes, right, in the blues. Okay, so here we go. Ready? Up here. Right? So you can hear where I am in the chord progression the whole time because I'm making a concerted effort to play, you know, the third and the seventh and land on one of those notes on a strong beat when the chord changes, right? And oftentimes, because of, you know, my background in playing jazz, I'll often surround those notes with some chromatic approach notes, right? I'll play some kind of B.B. King thing. But when it goes to C, I go. So I played a chromatic approach note to the third of C, right? So, again, without any accompaniment right there, you can hear exactly where I am in the form because I'm targeting those notes that so beautifully voice lead to the next third and seven of the chord in the tune. Anyway, hope this helps. Happy practicing, and we'll see you soon. Okay.